I'm going to share with you one trick that has totally changed the game when it's come to helping my children regulate through meltdowns. If you're feeling at a loss as to what to do and how to cope when your child, especially if they have autism, is having these huge feelings and these big meltdowns, I'm going to talk you through the Firefighter Technique that first responders use every day in their careers. And I promise you, if you implement this, it's going to change the way that you help to regulate your children, meaning everyone is going to get back to being much happier so much quicker. If you're new around here, hello, my name's Rhiannon Morgan. Everyone calls me Rhi. Thank you for stopping by. I have 4 children, all with autism. I was diagnosed with ADHD at age 40. We're a very neuro-sparkly household around here. And I had to share with you this Firefighter Technique because since I came across it, it's not just made the whole process of helping my children to regulate their emotions quicker, but it's made it so much easier for me to manage because I have a framework. Before we go on, if you have children and you're wondering if they show signs of autism and wondering should you get them assessed, I've got something for you. This is the guide I wish that someone had given me when my children were on the autism pathway. It's a free printable with 100 signs of autism. Now, I'm not a doctor. I'm just a mum that's been through this, and this is not a medical document, but this is just something designed to raise awareness of the signs and symptoms that you need to be looking out for so that you are equipped when you are talking to teachers, educational psychologists, and you don't walk away from things going, oh, I wish I'd answered that better. And you're not, like I was, oblivious to certain signs of autism that perhaps you could have brought up because you thought that those were just things that kids did. That was me for so long. So many of the signs of autism, I just thought things that all children do. If you head to mummyof4.com/100ASD, pop your email in the box and I'll send you the printable. Before we dive into the Firefighter Technique and exactly how it works, I'm going to share with you a framework so that we can understand how our children are feeling and maybe why they're melting down so that we can implement this technique and maximize its efficiency. So if you've ever read the book, The Chimp Paradox, if you have not, I would highly recommend it. If you don't have time to read, grab it on the free Audible trial. I will link all of the details for that below. But it's an amazing book that explains how we, as humans, have 3 different parts of our brains. We have our human brain, which is our conscious thought brain. Our computer brain, which governs all of the things that we don't think about at all, making sure our heart's beating, digesting our food, and anything we do without really thinking, like changing gear in the car. And then we've got our chimp brain. This is less evolved than our human brain, and it's almost as if our human brain is the latest iPhone running the latest software, and the chimp brain is still on iOS version 1. It's not quite caught up to the fact that we're living in a civilized society and we're no longer living in the wild and having to fend off wild animals, and it is just trying to keep us safe. This applies to all of us adults as well as children, whether you are neurotypical or neurosparkly. The chimp brain is reactive, it's emotional, and if it senses anything that may be a danger to our lives, it tells us to run. It activates fight, flight, freeze, or fawn modes, meaning we need to run away from danger, fight the dangerous predators, freeze so that we can't be seen and we can be kept safe that way, or fawn and people please our way to avoid the danger. The problem is because the chimp brain is still running on this earlier version of the software, it doesn't realize that so many of the things that are causing us to react are not actually a huge danger. And although I'm not a doctor, just a mum of lots of children with autism, it seems to me that when my children are melting down, this chimp brain is activated and perhaps triggered by things that wouldn't necessarily trigger neurotypical children. And when they're in a meltdown, it is our job as parents to bring them back from this fight or flight or freeze mode that they're stuck in with their chimp brain activated when they're having a meltdown, back to what Abby Rawlinson calls in her book, another amazing read, Reclaiming You, the safe and social state, where our human brain's in control, we can think logically, and we're not going to be having unnecessarily huge emotions and reactions to things. So what's all this got to do with the Firefighter Technique and how we implement it with our children? Well, let me paint you a picture. It's going to be scary, so buckle up. If you are in a burning building and you are absolutely terrified and there is smoke all around you, you're incredibly frightened, everything's getting hotter, there's smoke everywhere, you can barely see or breathe. This is when your sympathetic nervous system is going to be kicking in, your fight or flight is going to be kicking in, your chimp brain is going to be kicking in, and everything in your body is just going to be screaming, must survive. Now, the problem with this is when our fight or flight kicks in and our sympathetic nervous system kicks in, all of the problem solving and the logical rational thinking shuts down. So in effect, your body gets stronger and your mind gets dumber. So if a firefighter comes into that room to save you and starts asking you questions, which way would you like to go out? Would you like to go out this way or that way? To give you lectures about fire safety, to give you choices, to expect you to respond in certain ways. Is that going to be helpful when you're terrified and scared and just want to get out of that burning building? Probably not. So what those firefighters are trained to do is to remain calm, to remain in control, not to negotiate, not to lecture, but just to find the people in that burning building and get them out in a safe way. They're here to say, I'm here, I've got you, I know the way to safety, I'm going to take you there. Now, sometimes people who are scared and they are stuck in the chimp brain and their sympathetic nervous system has kicked in are not necessarily acting in a way that is going to help them get saved. So if you think of drowning people, if you switch this from a firefighter example to a lifeguard example, if you've ever tried to save a drowning person, and I experienced this, I can remember when I was a kid and I was with my sister in the swimming pool and we went slightly further out of her depth and she was not a strong swimmer and suddenly she started panicking. She was not saying, hey Ree, can you help me get to the side because I'm a bit scared? She was pushing me under, and although logically drowning me was probably not the best way to save herself, that's what happened. Because when you're frightened and when you are stuck in that fight or flight, sympathetic nervous system activated, you are not thinking logically. So sometimes when the firefighters come into the fire, they have to say, no, this is what's best. They speak in plain language, they give you clear instructions, but they take control. These are the steps we're going to take to get you to safety. So how can we apply this when we are dealing with our children who are having meltdowns? We need to think that we are that firefighter. When they're having a meltdown, it is not time to discuss with them maybe why it started, to analyze their tone or whether their words were kind or unkind, to give them loads of options, because you just have to think that they are the same as that scared person stuck in that fire. They're in the same state of mind as that drowning person. They are not thinking rationally or logically. Now, further down the line, after everyone is calm, after everyone is back in that safe and social state, if there are discussions to be had about choices that got people into certain situations, about different ways that we can behave or handle things or talk to our siblings. I'm not saying that these are not conversations that need to be had, but while our kids are having meltdowns, this is not the time. We have to remember that we, the first responders, we are the ones to say, I'm here, I've got you, I'm going to guide you out of this. And yes, I'm sure if someone has had a house fire when everyone is safe and everyone knows everyone's okay, I'm sure that fire department is probably going to want to have a chat with them about making sure smoke detectors are in place and making sure we don't leave chip pans unattended or candles near curtains. Those are probably conversations to be had, just as we can have conversations with our children when they're back in that safe and social state about how perhaps we can use strategies to prevent meltdowns in future, or whichever conversations need to be had depending on the situation. The aim is to calmly guide your child up the emotional regulation scale, one step at a time, thinking all the time, I'm the firefighter. It is my job to get them out of this calmly, to guide our children out of the danger that their chimp brain has convinced them that they are in during this meltdown. Now, if like me, you have children with autism, or maybe if like me, you have ADHD or just a very chaotic brain, and staying on top of routines and organization and all the things feels like a lot, come hang out with me inside of the Organised Life Club. It's the place for all of the resources I wish someone had just given me. We have monthly planning parties, workshops, new printables every month, everything you need to take charge of the routines and the organization in your household, especially if like mine, it's neuro-sparkly. So you can spend less time stressing, and more time feeling calm and actually enjoying time with your family. Now, I get asked so much, which specific strategies do I use in order to help my children regulate their emotions, to guide them through meltdowns back to a safe and social state? Well, if you click on the video on screen now, I'll take you through some simple strategies that you can try with your own children to put together your own emotional regulation toolbox. Join me inside of the Organised Life Club for all of the support you need for your neuro-spicy family, and I'll see you in the next video.